Welcome to the 2019-2020 CHISD Technology Training. We're going to start with the acceptable use policy. And if you've seen the acceptable use policy training year after year, I do want to let you know that there is brand new information in our recently updated acceptable use policy. So we will point out some of those updates to you. So pay close attention because you may be tested on this material later. So we'll start with the do's and the don'ts. The acceptable use policy can be found on our district website under technology. So you can read the document in its entirety, as this training is only going to cover some of the highlights and some of the more important details of our acceptable use policy. The first thing you need to know is that the AUP covers all of our district equipment, including iPads or laptops that may go home, as well as the resources that you access and your online interactions through social media, regardless of whether it's at school or at home. If you are representing the district in any capacity, you can be held accountable for your actions. The first thing to be mindful of is that the reason you are given a network account is primarily for educational purposes. So we ask that you limit your personal use on our devices and our network. While it is permitted, obviously, if you're supposed to be teaching class or you're supposed to be in a meeting, you should not be using the network for personal use, shopping or browsing the internet. And then, very, very important, probably one of the most important things we will ask of you is that you guard your login information. Do not share this with other teachers on your team. Do not share this with your own children. It's very important that you keep that information secure. As an employee of the district, your login allows you access to certain sites that students do not have access to. So once we give our students that employee level access, then they could possibly get into content that is inappropriate for them. And you need to be mindful of that and help us protect our students, because we are required by law to filter our internet and protect our students from possible harmful sites. Obviously, illegal purposes, borrowing someone's account information, downloading copyrighted material, posting or accessing obscene content, any improper use of our system, or gaining unauthorized access to things is an inappropriate use of our network and our system, and it could come with consequences. Those consequences could be suspending your account for a period of time. We could take your access away altogether, which in this day and age would make it very hard for you to do your job. And then, depending on what you used our network for inappropriately, we could also seek legal action, or you could receive discipline action from HR or your campus administrator. Depending on your role in the district, you may be given access to an email account, a cloud-based document storage, which is our Google Drive, and collaboration space, which also is our Google Apps for education. In all of our classrooms, you have access to a district computer that includes hardware and software. You also have access to copiers and printers on the campus, as well as the district network, which includes file storage in the form of our H drive and our G drive. There are some employees who are given district-owned technology to use at home. They have gone through either training or they have checked it out through the proper channels. That does not mean you can take any technology home whenever you want. And then everyone has access to district filtered internet access, both wired and wireless. Keep in mind, our internet is filtered. We are required by law to filter it. So keep these things in mind as you are working on our network. Appropriate practices. When we are talking about how to interact on our network and with our technology, we ask a few things of you. First and foremost, protect yourself. Keep your login secure, as I mentioned earlier. You are responsible for any activity that occurs on your login. So if someone does an inappropriate search and it gets flagged, it's on your login. We are coming to talk to you about it. And it's your word against someone else's that they were logged in or that they were using your computer. If you leave your computer open and walk away and somebody sends inappropriate emails or threatening emails, again, you're the one responsible because it generated from your account and your name will be on that email. You are required to change your password every 90 days, and the district passwords are required to be 8 characters long. They must include at least one capital letter, one lowercase letter, and one number. We know that it can be annoying sometimes to change that password every day or every 90 days, but it is for the sake of security. Keep in mind that you will be reminded that your password is getting ready to expire as long as you are shutting your computer down frequently. If you are one of those people that keep your computer always turned on and just lock it, and so the next day all you have to do is plug in your password, um, you might be locked out of things like Skyward and Eduphoria without knowing it because you did not get that reminder. You can go into my.chisd.net and get set up password recovery so that in case you ever are locked out, you have the ability to reset your password from home and you don't necessarily have to contact help desk. You are also responsible for any and all devices issued to you, as well as your personal devices. If you are using a personal device on our network, you are still responsible for the content that is generated from that device. Keep in mind, you are provided an account primarily for educational purposes. And then, of course, remember that your online actions are subject to the Open Records Act. Continuing on with protecting yourself, we ask that you do not respond to any request for personal identifying information or contact from people you don't know. If you get a random email from someone and they're asking for something, maybe they say they're from the IRS or the Social Security office, don't give that information because there's a lot of scams and schemes out there, and they're just looking for somebody to not pay attention and be caught off guard. If something doesn't feel right about an email or a request for information, feel free to ask. Feel free to contact us, and we will certainly help you figure out if it's a legitimate email or if it's a phishing email. Don't make appointments to meet people you meet online. That could be a dangerous scenario. Obviously, do not send any content that can be deemed abusive, obscene, pornographic, sexually oriented, threatening, harassing, damaging to another's reputation, or illegal. Sadly, we have to say that because it happens frequently. And just think before you send stuff, please. Respect others. Don't make video or audio recordings of our students, our teachers, our administrators without consent. You don't want people doing that to you, so don't do it to them. Don't pretend to be someone else. Don't share personal information about yourself, and don't share personal information about others. And this includes things like giving out an employee's email address for a fundraiser or something, and the next thing you know, they're getting emails from somebody they didn't ask to get an email from. Don't give out your fellow employees' cell phone numbers unless they have said it's okay. Respect others. Do not access, download, or modify anybody's account, their data, or their files. And abide by copyright and fair use. And then make sure that you're protecting others. If you see something, say something. If you are aware of harassment, bullying, someone accessing inappropriate content, report it. Don't open any emails that you don't know or could be spam. Don't click on any links. And then, most importantly, don't attempt to bypass our district filters and systems, because you could expose us to viruses and other harmful threats. As far as our equipment goes, we ask that you do not tamper it. You don't break it, you don't destroy it, you don't move it. We have some fabulous technicians in the district, and they will be more than happy to relocate equipment if it's necessary and if we can do that. Obviously, we need power, we need network drops to be able to locate some of our equipment, and you can't just have it anywhere in the room. But if it can be done, they will help you. Most importantly, do not relocate any telephones. Maybe there is a nicer phone in another room, but you cannot go take that phone and put it in yours, because our phone system is tied to 911, and all of those phones are set up the way they need to be so that emergency operators and things know exactly what classroom you're in. And if you move those devices, you mess up that system. All users will abide by our AUP even when they're accessing our network on personal devices. And I skipped that you cannot take our technology home unless you have written permission from the technology department in the form of a contract. As far as our internet content filter and websites go, you can link to outside websites on your website with the approval of the district webmaster. Many of you do maintain a teacher website on chisd.net, and we do ask that if you have that teacher website up, that you keep it up to date. Don't have outdated information on the site. When you're posting information on your website, do not post any district logins or passwords to programs that we have access to, because once you post it online, then anybody can find it. And so people that may not be CHISD users might have access to programs that they're not paying for and we are. And it's in violation of our user agreement with that company. You will need to sign in to the content filter on our personal devices, and I'll give you some more information later in this presentation. But on all of your devices, if you go to chisd.filter.net, you should get a screen that looks similar to this, and there will be an option for you to log in. So you do need to sign in to the content filter. The reason we have the content filter is because of the Child's Online Privacy Protection Act, otherwise known as COPPA. We are required by law to filter our internet. Your electronic communications include all forms of social media, text messages, instant messages, email, blogs, wikis, electronic forums such as chat rooms, what you're posting on YouTube, including comments on internet and social media, as well as phone calls. So this next section is going to cover the acceptable behavior for using any of these forms of communication. Personal use. You should not be posting, updating personal social media accounts on district time and equipment. You need to limit personal calls and text messages and pictures and videos to breaks. We do understand sometimes there is a need and there are emergencies, but we don't need to be texting in the middle of class with a friend or anything like that. Your first and primary position is to be teaching our students. Do not share or post any information, videos, or pictures without permission of your supervisor. And remember that you are bound by the Texas Educators Code of Ethics. And so it applies when you are communicating, whether it's on a personal or district device and whether it's on or off campus. I know that's hard for some people to understand, but educators are still held to a certain standard, and that's why we have that Texas Educators Code of Conduct. Communicating with students. Communication with students must only pertain to classroom assignments, extracurricular activities, etc. They should not be of a personal nature. Do not communicate with students through social media. Limit your communications with students between the hours of 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. Any communication between students and parents is not considered private and is subject to open records request. You need to abide by the Public Information Act and the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, or otherwise known as FERPA. And then upon request of a parent or administrator, you need to stop communicating with the students. These rules are kind of new to our acceptable use policy, and they may seem a little harsh, but they're there for a reason. It's to protect our students and to protect you as educators. When you're communicating through social media, sometimes it can be your word against theirs. And you don't want to get yourself into a sticky situation that might possibly cost you your job. Approved and recommended communication tools, because we don't want you communicating through social media, but there are many ways to communicate with our students and our parents, and there's a reason we ask you to use these. Number one, there is a record of the communication, so there can't be any of this he said, she said. We can actually pull the documentation and say, you were right, this is what you said. So it's for your protection and the protection of our students. You have the Skyward Messenger. You have your district email. As far as outside third-party apps, we do recommend Remind. We recommend communicating through Google Classroom, Seesaw, ClassDojo, and then SMORE newsletters are also approved. Continuing on, as far as social media goes, it is acceptable to create a professional class Twitter or Facebook account. The site must be accessible to both students or both parents and campus administrators. And more importantly, your students should never be asked to create a social media account in order to follow the account. Included with that, obviously, those are what we recommend and have approved. So if you are using another site, another social media account, in another app to communicate with students or parents, you need to get that approved through technology and your campus administrator, because many of those sites, while they may offer great benefits, they don't necessarily comply with COPA, which is the Child's Internet Protection Act, or CIPA, and we have to be cautious about FERPA as well. Some things to remember about email. All of your district email is considered public record and is subject to an open records request. You need to keep in mind that when you use your district email, it has the @chisd.net tag in it. So you may be representing the district, and people may assume that you represent the district when maybe that's not your intent. Send your email to the most appropriate audience, not the widest. And don't send any unsolicited junk mail, anything racist, sexist, or inflammatory. No obscenities, no abusive language. Do not include other people's names, because remember, this is an open records account. So be very careful about what you say with someone else's name in it. Around election time, we'll probably get a friendly reminder that we are not allowed to be doing any political lobbying using our district email address. And this is a big one, and sometimes people don't quite understand it, but do not conduct school business from a personal email address or vice versa. Don't conduct um, personal business from your school email. The reason for this being is once you start emailing parents or conducting business with a personal email account, you've now opened up your personal account to that open records, public record um, request. And you probably don't want that. Netiquette. This is the etiquette that we handle ourselves with online. So, number one, be polite. Use proper punctuation and grammar. Don't use all caps. That's the same as yelling at someone. Make sure you are using appropriate language, no swearing, nothing vulgar, no ethnic or racial slurs. And certainly don't pretend to be someone else. And remember that using sarcasm can sometimes be missed in an email because we can't convey the tone. So use that cautiously. Copyright and fair use. Everyone is bound by law. You may not post or distribute any copyrighted material without written consent of the owner. Do not post copyrighted material on our website, and this includes things like teachers pay teachers and college logos, even videos that you want to show in class. Many of these organizations, many of the vendors on Teachers Pay Teachers, they're making money off of their products, and when you post a link to it digitally, then now people can access it for free, and that person is missing out on money, and they are not afraid to send cease and desist letters, and they are not afraid to protect their property. Social media. Keep your personal accounts separate from work accounts. Because remember, what you do online, even when not at work, can still get you in trouble. There are plenty of news stories every year that a teacher posted something on Twitter or Facebook that cost them their job. Do not share district information. Sometimes, as employees of the district, we are privy to information that is not necessarily made public yet. Um, don't share information about your students or other personnel on the campus. If someone asks you not to post information or photos of them, don't do it. Respect other people's wishes. Don't post videos or pictures of students without written consent. That's why we have a media release. And if you identify as a CHISD employee, ensure your profile reflects the image you want to present to parents, students, and staff. This also includes when you're interacting on social media. If you are a CHISD employee, um, do not engage in any arguments or banter with people who may be speaking negatively of the district. And that goes along with this. Remember, you are a CHISD employee. You need to be professional. You need to respect others and ensure the safety of our students. And you need to navigate those staff and student relationships very carefully. And most importantly, be an advocate for our district. Share the good news. Also, in social media, you need to assume all of your content that is shared is public. Students should not respond to requests for information, for personal information. Students are prohibited from accessing social network sites during school hours. As a teacher, we caution you about friending students and parents. Neither one is a very good idea. Also, be very careful about what you post in the fact that you don't know who knows who. So, if you post something on your account, there might be somebody that knows one of your parents or one of your students and could pass on information that you may not want them to know. Um, and it's not a bad idea to create a professional profile. So we're going to take a short minute here and we're going to watch this little video about online professionalism for teachers.
You're an adult, living life to the fullest, expressing yourself online, texting, friending, sharing, and tweeting. What could go wrong? Well, if you're a teacher, lots of things. As a teacher, you are held to a higher standard than most professionals. Not only do you need to abide by the same laws as everyone else, but you also have to abide by state guidelines, district policies, and school rules. You are also expected to lead your life according to a high moral standard, which might mean different things to different people. As an employee of a school district, you are held accountable to your stakeholders, your school board, your students, and their parents for leading a moral life. This has always been the case, but these moral issues are even more important now with technologies that allow others to have unprecedented access to your life. In some ways, technology makes your life an open book from which you can be misjudged, and it erases some of the traditional barriers that have separated your professional life from your personal one. Within the current technology ecosystem, the opportunity for teachers to lead a personal life separate from their professional life has almost disappeared, and this has led to some serious problems for teachers. In short, if you ignore professional standards or violate laws, you could be fired, lose your teaching license, and even go to jail, and many teachers have. Teachers have gotten into trouble for some pretty ridiculous things. However, we've all heard about the extreme cases of teachers having romantic relationships with students. But well intentioned teachers have also been fired for sending risque photos privately, posting pictures of alcohol, swearing online, texting or friending students, or even voicing unpopular political opinions. In short, there are a million ways that modern technologies can get teachers into trouble, even if you are doing things that you may not think are particularly bad. So you need to know how to use these technologies appropriately and professionally, even though problem areas may seem a little fuzzy. Here are 5 guidelines to help you. First, draw clear lines between personal and professional use. Keep your personal use as private as possible. Lock down your Facebook account. Don't give students your mobile number, and don't use your school's technology or network to do things that are unprofessional. Second, set clear boundaries with your students and their parents, and don't cross those boundaries. Friendliness can quickly become inappropriate intimacy if you aren't careful. Third, never post anything anywhere that you wouldn't want your students or their parents to see, because it could end up on the nightly news. Fourth, be critical of yourself and regularly check your online presence. What do people see when they search for you, and how will they judge you for this? Think about the clothes you wear in pictures, the language you use in posts, and your general tone. What message are you sending? And fifth, realize that social media posts, emails, and text messages are never completely private. They can be forwarded, copied, and shared. So be careful and professional, even in private conversations. Modern technologies are great tools, but they also pose great risk for teachers if you aren't careful how you use them. Remember, as a teacher, you are placed in a role of trust to your students and your communities, and it's your job to live up to the highest standard of behavior both online and offline.
Okay, so that just gives you a little food for thought when we are thinking about our interactions online and on social media. So please be very cautious, and all of those things are built into our acceptable use policy. Digital citizenship. So, what you need to know about digital citizenship, in addition to the digital citizenship course that every employee is required, is that we want you to make it an everyday conversation for yourself and for our students. Um, this little cartoon right here, I don't know how well you can see it on your screen, but it says there is no real world and digital world. It's what our world is today. Devices are everywhere, technology is everywhere. We live in a digital age. And so, those things to remember about being digital citizens is that you protect your private information, you respect yourself and others, you keep yourself safe online, you stand up to cyberbullying, and you balance your time. Give yourself a little downtime from that screen time. All students pre-K through 12 receive monthly digital citizenship lessons. But keep in mind, just because you are not the person responsible for delivering those lessons doesn't mean that you can't have the discussions in your classroom. We use Common Sense Media as our primary curriculum for the grade levels, and it's delivered via Nearpod. Teachers that are responsible for teaching those lessons will join the Google Classroom and we will verify they have taught the lessons. All staff must complete a 1-hour online digital citizenship training every year. This training must be completed by September 1st. All resources and links to access the course are actually housed in a Google form, and the information will also be posted in the Google Classroom for digital citizenship. We will give the Google Classroom code out to our technology liaisons who will share it with the teachers on each campus responsible for teaching those digital citizenship lessons to our students. Accessing our district resources. We do suggest you use Google Chrome, primarily because Chrome updates automatically. And since we are a G Suite for Education district, Chrome works best, or Google works best in Chrome because they own the Chrome browser. When you need to get into district resources, we suggest you log into my.chisd.net. You use your district login, which is your username and password. And from here, you will be taken to the district portal. So I'll show you real quickly my.chisd.net. You can access it from home or on our network. And when you log in with your district login, you will be taken, oops, don't worry, we've paid our bills. You will be taken to this screen. You will see things like Skyward. Somewhere I have Skyward, Eduphoria. There's the Skyward apps. And the nice thing about accessing it through here is when you click on one of the icons, it will automatically do its magic and it will sign you into the application without having to enter your password. I haven't done this password yet, so it's the first time I'm gonna plug it in and then it will remember it. So the next time that I log in, it will automatically log me in without me having to enter my password. So there it goes. One thing to note, you also have my files at the bottom, which is where you can access your Google Drive and you can access your H Drive as well. So this is a nice feature to know about when you're at home and you need something that is saved to the network. All employees need to go into their profile in ClassLink or My CHISD. You click on the little picture image, the drop down, and go to My Profile. And here you need to set up your password recovery, which will allow you to change your password if you are not on our network. There's a couple of new features as well. One of them is auto launch, and I don't know if you noticed it or not, but I will close all of this wonderful stuff, all these wonderful tabs at the top, and I will sign out. And I've enabled the auto launch feature on some things like Gmail and Calendar and Skyward. So when I log in to my ClassLink, if you will look at the top of my screen, you will notice several of the apps automatically populate. All those tabs automatically opened when I logged in. So, and I'm automatically signed in. So those are some nice features. You can do that by right clicking on it, and you'll have the auto launch option. Right now it's defaulted to, you can only use 5, and I already have my 5 loaded. So if there's anything that you like to have loaded on there, you can just right click on it and do auto launch. So those are some things about My CHISD. Our copiers. So again, we have the copiers that you can use your badge to use for secure print. You will need, if you need to register your badge, you will need to log on to any copier. Previously, you had to log in to the big copier on your campus, but we've updated, so now you only need to log in. You can log in on any copier, does not matter. Print any document and retrieve it from the copier on the campus. You can also scan documents and email them to yourself. Let's try to be green and think before we print, because not everything needs to be a piece of paper that we can hold. Some of it's fine electronically. Bright Bites is our annual technology survey that we will take in January. Some of the things that you will hear about quite frequently based on past year's results include digital citizenship, the 4 C's, which are creativity, critical thinking, communication, and collaboration. SAMR, which is a technology integration model, and the S stands for substitution. A is for augmentation, M is for modification, and R is for redefinition. And so, based on your answers to the questions, the data lets us know how many teachers are at the substitute level, augmenting level, and obviously the more advanced you are with using technology, you would work your way up to redefinition. And then our idea of using technology every day. Technology is very much a part of our world, and it's accessible, and it can bring a lot to a lesson. Don't let it get in the way of the content, but certainly find ways to incorporate it into your classroom, and I can help with that. Some Google updates, some things you might want to know about Google. Yes, we are still using Google. Google is not going anywhere. We love Google, especially Tracy. We suggest that you always use Chrome because obviously Google works best in Google. Some recent updates that you may or may not have noticed is previously we had team drives. The team drives have changed and they are now called shared drives. So that is one change. The content didn't change, permissions didn't change. You should still have a campus drive, and there is a drive for CHISD manuals that house the different manuals for the district. Google Classroom, as always, releases some updates at the start of the school year. They include some new grading features, and one really cool feature that is available on your mobile devices is the ability to have a student selector. So it's kind of like the old-fashioned popsicle sticks. It'll randomize the names of all your students enrolled in your Google Classroom, and you can call on them. Another nice feature to keep in mind, especially when we think back to those communication rules for our students and keeping it between the hours of 6 and 10, is the schedule send button. So if I go into my email, when I type out a message on the send button, there is now a little drop down arrow, and when I click on that drop down arrow, I now have the option to schedule send, and of course I have to send it to someone. And when I do it, I have the option to send it tomorrow afternoon or Monday morning, or I can pick my own date and time. So that's a nice new feature in Gmail. Schedule send. Chromebook management. Last year we rolled out a campaign to have all of our staff train our students on basic Chromebook care in hopes of protecting our devices from having keys picked off and having screens damaged. The lessons will be made available again, and we do expect them to be shown in every classroom that uses Chromebooks prior to the first use of Chromebooks with that group of students. As always, the technology department is here to help and serve you, and this is how you can contact us, and this is how you can help us. The help desk is actually no longer in Eduphoria. You will email helpdesk.chisd.net. You can also access it through my apps called Help Desk. The more information you can include in the ticket, the better. That will give us help us troubleshoot. And remember, sometimes we can troubleshoot remotely. We do not have to physically go to your classroom. Help desk tickets should be for things like your computer's not working, your smart board's not working, your projector's not working. You can't access a program, you can't log in. So those kind of things. Do not let things go damaged or not working. Go ahead and report them. And as a reminder, make sure that you do not stop our technicians in the hallway without having put in a ticket. They're great guys and they want to help, but we need the documentation of what the issue is. It allows us to keep statistics on how many people we're helping. It allows us to follow trends. Maybe there's something going on with the network and multiple people are having the same problem. The tickets help us identify that. If you need any instructional assistance, if you need to know how to use programs, if you want to integrate in technology, if you want help planning the use of technology into your lessons, please email me. I will be more than happy to help. And don't forget that we do have campus level support in the form of our campus technology liaisons, as well as our librarians can assist on some levels for those quick questions that might need immediate support. So don't hesitate to reach out. And if you just don't know where to go, check with your campus liaison or email Tracy, and we will certainly assist you in getting the help that you need. Thank you. Now you will need to complete the acceptable use policy quiz in the Google form to finish out your training and earn your certificate.